This video is based on the Cambridge IGCSE specification for business studies. And what I'm going to be looking at is a past paper question from paper 1. And I'm going to be focusing on unit 3 in terms of marketing and specifically price. And hopefully in terms of the knowledge and the exam technique and the model answer, it'll help you to achieve higher grades. So in paper 1, you only get snippets of information, unlike paper 2. And then in paper 2, you get pages of case study, but in paper 1, you're expected to carry out the application with just a little bit of information. Now, some students think because it's less information, application isn't as important, but it's crucial whatever paper you do. Application is what will get you higher levels and the higher marks within IGCSE. So if we have a look at the case study and we look at Gayle Soaps, it's a business which manufactures health and beauty products. Its market share has remained constant at 15% despite new businesses entering this market. The business uses market segmentation. Most of its customers are women, and the marketing manager believes the company could increase its profits if it increases the price of each of its most popular products. Now, in terms of the question, what I would do is I'd read the question and then go back to the case study just to make sure if there's any information within that snippet of information that relates directly to this question. Now, in terms of the question, carry out IDF. And IDF, just a reminder, it stands for instruction. So looking at what the command word is, direction. So what is the question about? And focus, what is the theory involved? So if you carry that out now. So the instruction is justify. And what you should know about justify is you require a balanced analysis before you're able to justify and give that evaluation. With a justify question, you always have to provide an evaluation. Now, often students jump straight into the evaluation, but the issue with that is it can create a biased argument. It can create a lot of unbalance within the answer, and it's very one-sided. So how I would do it is don't commit, not quite yet. Do an argument for increasing prices, do an argument against, and then allow a justified judgment. The direction is Gayle's Soaps, which is quite obvious, but you'll be surprised about the amount of answers that I read, and they can be about any generic business. What you need to make sure that you do is that you make it so specific to Gayle and her situation. So when you finish your answer, just have a quick read over it and just make sure that it is about Gayle Soap, it is about her situation, and it does tie in and relate to the case study above. In terms of focus, I actually believe that there's 2 areas of focus. The first one is increasing price, and that's why it relates to Unit 3. But the reason why they're thinking about increasing price is for the objective of higher profits. So let's have a look at the case study again and see if there's anything that we need to consider for this answer. Remember, we're looking at the arguments for increasing prices and the arguments against. When you do consider when you consider price, one of the most important pieces of advice that you need to take in is price should always relate to price elasticity of demand. Remember, price elasticity of demand is the responsiveness of quantity demanded to a change in price. So for example, if the product is price elastic, it means it is very, very responsive to a change in price. What tends to happen is if they increase prices, customers are very responsive to switch to alternatives and maybe rivals. Or if they reduce prices, then consumers are very, very responsive to buy from that company and therefore leave their current business, or whoever they're shopping with at the moment, and move over to this company because they've reduced their price. If it's inelastic, then customers are not responsive. So in terms of if they reduce price, a couple of customers may come, some customers, but not many. So it might not be worth it because the quantity demanded will not increase enough to justify the reduction in price. So actually it could be quite detrimental to revenue. But yet if they increase prices, the quantity demanded won't fall by that much. So therefore the increase in price should actually allow for higher levels of revenue. So what we need to decide, because it hasn't told us, sometimes in the case that it'll tell us if it's inelastic or it's elastic, we need to decide whether we believe her soap is elastic and whether it's inelastic. And if we have a look at the second line, or the end of the first line, it says its market share has remained constant at 15%. Now, the fact that it's at 15% suggests that there's 75% market share still out there. So that is obviously to other companies within the market. And it also says it's remained constant despite new businesses entering this market. So therefore, it suggests that it's a very competitive market. Now, because there's substitutes, we can create the assumption that it's quite elastic, this market, because if, for example, Gayle soap increased its prices, there's lots of competition that customers could possibly turn to. So that is going to be our first argument. So the first point I've made, I've not jumped into to a conclusion. I've not committed to any point. All I've given is an unbiased point. So what I've put is, as the case study states, that new businesses have entered the market and Gayle is only 15%. This suggests that she's operating in a competitive market and therefore there are many substitutes. Now within that, there's points, there's reasoning why that point is valid, and there's also application. So it's ticking a lot of the boxes that the examiner is looking for. But it just requires a little bit more development, and it needs to be a little bit more technical as well. So this could mean that the market is elastic. So there's your terminology. And any increase in price could be detrimental, as customers may choose to shop elsewhere and therefore hurt Gayle's revenue. So there's my development, and there's the technical elements to the answer. So that's one of my arguments. But I need a balanced argument. So now I need to look at, well, maybe why should she increase prices? So let's have a look again at the case study. So again, after reading the snippet of information, there are clues to suggest that yes, there's lots of competitors, but there could be an argument that hair products are inelastic. So the market, you could argue, is elastic, but you could also argue that maybe hair products are more inelastic. It says that her market shares remain constant. Even when new businesses are coming in, they're still buying from her. That could suggest loyal customers. Also, the fact that she has very popular products. So therefore, customers might not mind paying extra because she's successfully added value. So this could be our next point. Next point I've put, however, and this is my balanced point, this is my counter argument. However, the case study also states that her market share has remained consistent even with new arrivals to the market, which may suggest brand loyalty, especially as her products are described as popular. So this is my point, this is my reasoning, and there's my application as well. So now I just need to develop it now. So this may mean that Gayle is successful at adding value. So there's some technical terminology as well, and might be in a position where she could add value even further without impacting demand. Remember, adding value is justifying that increase in price. It's justifying why the prices that you charge are higher than your variable costs. If she's good at that, which it seems that she is because her products are popular and the market share has remained consistent, then maybe it wouldn't actually impact a company. So now we're in a position where we can give a conclusion. Now, it doesn't matter what your conclusion is. It doesn't matter if you go for point 1 or point 2, as long as you justify it. Now, often my students will just offer repetition. They'll just repeat pretty much what they've said before. And I'm really trying to get them to look at a weighted approach. And the weighted approach thinks about which argument is more important than the other. Which argument is the crucial one, which outweighs the other argument. And that's not repetition. It's considering with a different viewpoint and looking at the bigger picture. So let's have a look at the evaluation. Okay, So I put in judgment to the question, which just signposted the examiner, this is my conclusion. And I've put, I believe that she should increase her prices. The reason for this is a past record with market share. So I've said that my second point is the most important, but now I need to explain why. As she appears experienced and has plans for further growth with different market segments. You could argue I've brought in a new point there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to relate it to added value to further justify why added value is so crucial to Gayle. So I've put, if she's able to select a niche and allow her products to be even more unique, this may help justify a further price increase. This obviously depends on the market segment she chooses and whether it is income based. So it doesn't really give you that much information as to her market segmentation. But if she went down the lines of looking at income, then that might justify why she could increase her prices. But there's always going to be a depends upon, but it's always good at the end of your conclusion just to think about a realistic depends upon, just to kind of summarize and evaluate your conclusion.